The Korean government says tritium contained in the Fukushima water is not likely to pose a risk to human health, adding that it'll closely monitor Japan's test run facilities before the water discharge. This as officials hold a press conference amid public concerns. The U.S. Federal Reserve pauses a rate hike for the first time in 15 months, but indicated further increases are possible this year. At home, this leaves many wondering what the Bank of Korea's next step will be in terms of the rate gap. A special bank savings program designed for young people in Korea drew some 34,000 applications as of noon on its first day. It's aimed at helping the younger generations gain economic stability. It's June 15, 2023. This is News Center. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. Amid public concerns regarding Japan's planned discharge of Fukushima water, the Korean government has took a step forward and begun its daily briefing. The first presser on this matter centered on the overall situation, monitoring, and safety measures. Our political correspondent Han Sung-woo starts us off.
According to a nuclear expert from a South Korean pan-ministry government task force, the concentration levels of tritium to be released once Japan discharges radioactive wastewater from its crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant are not expected to pose any risks to human health.
Even taking uncertainties into account, it's unrealistic to think that the tritium released from the marine tunnel will fall within a range that could impact our health.
Professor Ha explained that the amount of exposure to radiation from the tritium is incomparably lower than that from a medical X-ray. This came during South Korea's launch on Thursday of daily weekday briefings on Japan's plans to start releasing the contaminated water into the Pacific Ocean this summer. The aim? To relieve public concerns and prevent the spread of inaccurate information adding to those concerns. The Office for Government Policy Coordination told reporters during the presser that the government will be closely monitoring Japan's test run of its discharge facilities and provide explanations should any unusual occurrences arise.
The test run that began on Monday is not a trial of all the wastewater discharge equipment, but rather a trial of several components, such as the marine tunnel and various pipes.
First Vice Minister of the office, Park Gu-yeon, added that the Korean team of experts that returned from on-site inspections last month is carefully analyzing related data it has procured from Japan, particularly on its custom multi-nuclide removal system known as the Advanced Liquid Processing System. His words came before the Fisheries Ministry, citing the results of the government's radioactivity monitoring so far, stressed there had been no significant changes in concentration levels in Korea's coastal waters following the Fukushima nuclear disaster, and that Korea's fishery products are safe to consume.
In other words, the radioactive releases from the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster did not have a meaningful effect on our waters. Korea's seas are safe.
Meanwhile, in Parliament, the head of South Korea's inspection team, Yoo Guk-hee, told lawmakers at the National Policy Committee that the experts are speeding up their analyses to reach a final conclusion on whether the wastewater is truly safe before it is released. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
Marking the 24th anniversary of a maritime clash between the two Koreas, President Yoon Suk-yeol says South Korea will respond to North Korea's provocations without a moment's hesitation. In a Facebook post on Thursday, Yoon paid respects to the South Korean soldiers who fought to defend the country against North Korea's maritime offensive in 1999, praising the South Korean Navy's steadfast defense in the face of North Korean aggression 24 years ago. He further highlighted the service of soldiers in the country for freedom, peace, and prosperity. South Korea defeated North Korea in a span of 14 minutes with at least 30 North Korean fatalities and 10 vessels destroyed. 9 South Korean soldiers were injured, but none were killed. Amid the recent diplomatic spat with Beijing, South Korea's foreign minister says the opportunity to meet his Chinese counterpart will come naturally, as they are both expected to attend the ASEAN Regional Forum next month. Speaking to the press on Thursday, Park Jin reiterated that the government will continue to develop relations with China based on mutual respect and common interests. This as controversy sparked by Chinese Ambassador Xing Haiming's recent statement, saying it would be wrong for Seoul to bet on Beijing's defeat in its ongoing clashes with the United States. Park also made clear that the government issued a stern warning to Xing and that all responsibility for future consequences from his comments rests with him. Over in the U.S., the Federal Reserve has decided to hold rates steady for the first time in well over a year, but has left the door open for future hikes within this year to tamp down inflation. Our Moon Hye-ryun has more.
The U.S. Central Bank has kept its interest rates unchanged for the first time in 15 months, but says more rate hikes are likely before the end of the year. Following the Federal Monetary Open Committee's two-day meeting, it issued a unanimous statement on Wednesday that rate hikes would be paused at the 5 to 5.25% range while the economic situation is assessed. This freeze follows 10 consecutive rate hikes as the Fed aggressively responded to the worst inflation the United States has seen in 40 years.
Looking ahead, nearly all committee participants view it as likely that some further rate increases will be appropriate this year to bring inflation down to 2% over time.
Fed officials say that further hikes are likely to bring interest rates to the 5.5 to 5.75% range before the end of 2023. Despite more rate increases, Fed officials cast a more optimistic view of the economy, but say curbing inflation takes longer in a robust economy. The economic growth outlook for this year more than doubled to 1%, up from 0.4%, while the unemployment rate is projected to rise to 4.1%, which is lower than March's estimate of 4.5%. In May, the Consumer Price Index climbed 4% on year, which was the lowest annual rise in over 2 years. However, excluding volatile food and energy prices, the core inflation rate remained well above the Fed's target of 2%.
So I think if you look at core PCE inflation overall, look at it over the last 6 months, you're just not seeing a lot of progress. It's running at a level, over 4.5%, far above our target, and not really, moving down.
Personal consumption expenditure, which measures price changes of consumer goods and services, rose 4.4% on year in April. The Fed's earlier prediction back in March that PCE would see an on-year rise of 3.6% at the end of the year has been raised to 3.9% in reflection of the latest data. U.S. stocks pinballed following the announcement, with investors bracing for another interest hike later this year. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
Following what the U.S. Fed has indicated, many are wondering what the Bank of Korea's next step will be in terms of the rate gap that could widen even more. Lee Dae-hyun explains.
Concerns are rising as the interest rate difference between South Korea and the U.S. may expand as the U.S. signaled more increases later this year. With the Fed's decision to keep the base rate unchanged for now, the rate difference stays at 1.75 percentage points, an all-time high gap. However, with Fed officials revealing that rate hikes totaling 0.5 percentage points between now and the end of the year, the gap is expected to surpass 2 percentage points, even up to 2.25 percentage points, if South Korea's central bank continues to freeze the rate. This could spell crisis for South Korea, with a weaker won against the U.S. dollar possible and with foreign capital outflow. Now it's up to the Bank of Korea to focus on taming anxiety by freezing the rate or increasing the base rate to prevent any uncertainties resulting from an exchange rate crisis. The head of the Bank of Korea, Lee Chang-yong, said previously that Korea will not mechanically respond to a rate difference, adding that more rate hikes may come in the near future. However, economic conditions in South Korea are making it difficult to raise base rates. The GDP growth rate in the first quarter of this year barely avoided a negative figure, while the trade deficit has been in the red for the 15 straight months. The BOK also already lowered its economic growth outlook from 1.6% to 1.4% amid China's weaker-than-expected reopening and the sluggish recovery of the chip sector. Meanwhile, South Korea's Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho said during a meeting on Thursday that a rate freeze by the Fed was already expected by the market and the government.
Uncertainties remain as to how major countries will decide on their monetary policies. The government will keep watching for any uncertainties and closely monitor the market and strengthen the management of vulnerable sectors.
During the meeting, Chu also pledged to thoroughly manage the potential risk of project financing in real estate, as more rate hikes could trigger a crisis for non-banking financial companies as well as a complete financial crisis. He said related institutes are cooperating to monitor project financing firms around the clock. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
A special bank savings program designed for young people in Korea opened today and drew tens of thousands of applications on its first day. It's offering a savings account with a maximum annual percentage yield of 6%. Lee Soo-jin has details.
A much-anticipated South Korean government-backed bank savings program first announced in March this year to help youths gain economic stability is now open. According to the Financial Services Commission, 11 banks, including Nonghyup, Shinhan, Uri, and Hana, began accepting applications for the Youth Leap account at 9 a.m. Thursday. The nation's top financial regulator says that the program received around 34,000 applications in just 3 hours after its launch. With the Youth Leap account, users can save up to 50 million won, or around $39,000 over the course of 5 years, with a maximum deposit of 700,000 won per month. The government will make contributions depending on the amount deposited and the account holder's personal income. Those contributions could be as much as 24,000 won per month, while the interest gained is tax-free. All 11 banks said Wednesday they would offer a maximum annual deposit interest rate of 6%, including fixed base rates and preferential interest rates. Those aged between 19 and 34 with a total annual income of 60 million won or less and a household income below 180% of the median income are eligible. For two-person households, the monthly income must be 6.22 million won or below. For three-person households, income is capped at 7.98 million won. Foreign nationals living in Korea that meet the requirements can also register and receive tax-free interest income, but will not be able to receive government contributions. Those eligible can apply through their banking apps between 9 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
And today we take a closer look at the economy. Tax benefits on car purchases are soon to end in the nation. This as concerns grow over decreasing tax collection by the government. For more on this issue, our business correspondent Shin Ha-young joins me in the studio. Hi, Ha-young.
Thank you for having me, Jungmin.
So first of all, if I were to buy a car, how much more will I have to pay?
Right, so starting July, consumers have to pay more when purchasing cars, as Seoul's Finance Ministry announced that it will terminate the tax cut on car purchases. And back in July 2018, the government lowered the individual consumption tax on passenger vehicles from 5% to 3.5% to ramp up domestic consumption. It then cut the tax even more, albeit temporarily, during the first half of 2020 when the economy was first hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. And a 3.5% level has been extended every 6 months since then, with the maximum benefit limited to 1 million Korean won, or about $780. And the government decided to not to extend it anymore and return to the normal 5% next month, citing the current robust car industry and the improvement in consumption. However, the main reason to stop the cut is rising concern over national tax revenue, as it may fall short of its estimate this year. And in fact, according to the Finance Ministry, the country's tax revenue in the first 4 months of this year dropped by roughly 34 trillion won, which is over $26 billion compared to a year earlier. And referring back to the measures, let's say you're buying a car that has a factory price of roughly $32,800. From next month, you have to pay about $700 more than before. However, a day before the ministry's announcement, the National Tax Service said that it will slash the consumption tax base by 18% for domestic cars to mitigate the impact of higher taxes on cars produced at home. And so this means that you will end up paying about $280 more than before under the two policies, which will take effect from July.
And Hayoung, speaking of tax revenue, is this measure expected to be effective enough to ease concerns?
Well, to give you a straight answer, no. The measure is not enough to address the the shortfall in tax revenue. And in fact, an expert who I spoke to said that tax on car purchases contributes little to our tax revenue. Let's take a listen.
The tax cut for car purchases reduces the country's overall tax revenue by 1.3 trillion won, or $1 billion. This means that while the termination of the tax cut helps to raise tax revenue to some extent, it's still not enough to replenish the overall tax revenue shortfall.
In fact, the tax on car purchases makes up less than 2% of the total tax revenue. In fact, income tax accounts for their largest share, approximately 33%, followed by corporate tax at 26%. But due to the economic slowdown and sluggish exports, the business sector performed poorly, which has resulted in a significant drop in corporate tax revenue. And also, with the stagnation of the asset market, income tax has declined as well. And these taxes are expected to continue to decline amid a gloomy outlook for South Korea's economy, with the country's economic growth expected to hover around 1% range this year.
Then how is the government responding?
Well, the government's latest decision on the car tax cuts is seen as a signal that other temporary tax benefits could also set to be cut. And in fact, in April, South Korea decided to extend its fuel tax cut measures for 4 more months. However, due to more stable oil prices these days, watchers say the government could abolish it. And there are also expectations that the government could issue deficit financing bonds to fill the tax revenue shortfall or cut down expenses.
The government has set the goal of slashing the ratio of fiscal deficit to GDP to 3%. Therefore, if the country issues additional national bonds to address the shortfall in tax revenue, along with that, it should also expand its tax revenue, reduce its spending, and utilize surplus funds to maintain the deficit below the level.
According to the data released on Thursday, the country's fiscal deficit expanded to 45.4 trillion won, or around $35 billion in the first 4 months of 2023 from a year earlier. And the finance minister had previously hinted at the removal of tax reduction measures like the fuel tax cut, which is set to expire in August.
All the temporary tax cut measures have an expiration date. Regarding the matter, we plan to assess the status of tax revenue, economic conditions, and the tax burden on individuals in order to make comprehensive decisions on each policy as the time approaches.
He added that the government will move forward according to this year's initial budget by utilizing surplus money from the previous year as well as other reserve funds.
All right, Hayoung, thanks for your summary.
Thank you.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has ratified an agreement to supply natural gas from the Russian Far East to China's northeastern region, according to Chinese media on Thursday. The agreement includes constructing a gas pipeline that stretches from the town of Dalnyerchensk in Russia to the city of Hulin in China, a distance of over 65 kilometers, the report says, citing the TASS news agency. Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin said the agreement will be beneficial for both countries and promote Russia's development of its Far East region. Gazprom, the state-owned Russian energy company, and the China National Petroleum Corporation, a state-owned Chinese enterprise, are set to work together to build the pipeline, which will supply some 10 billion cubic meters of gas to China annually. You might have seen and heard of works by iconic Spanish artist Salvador Dali and architect Antonio Gaudi. But what if their masterpieces are reborn with light, sound, and digital technology? Join our very own 신새벽 for a sneak peek.
At the signal of Salvador Dali bursting out of an egg, the show commences. Soon after, the Spanish artist's surrealistic masterpieces project themselves onto every surface, enveloping every inch of the hall. Welcome to the realm of Dali's mind, where his artwork comes alive.
This exhibition, Fear of Light, features various artworks by renowned artists Salvador Dali and Antonio Gaudi. And as the name of the exhibition says, it utilizes lights and sound for an enhanced immersive experience.
After the highly acclaimed inaugural edition, Bunker of Light, in 2018, the Light Immersive Art Exhibition series in South Korea has made its comeback. Through cutting-edge sound and video technology, visitors are transported into the subconscious minds of Dali and Gaudi. Unlike conventional art exhibitions, visitors can enjoy the experience while seated with visual delights in every direction. The first part of the show, Dali, The Endless Enigma, features 12 sequences incorporating Dali's paintings, photographs, videos, and more. From the coastal village of Catalonia to his collaboration with Walt Disney, Dali's imagination and inspiration come to life. The second part, Gaudi, the architect of the imagination, presents the fruit of Catalan architect Antoni Gaudi's mind. There, visitors can marvel at the spectacle of twinkling lights reflecting from a rose window and beautifully decorated tiles at the Sagrada Familia. The exhibition's organizers said combining digital technology with artwork opens up fresh and unique interpretations for viewers.
Here, visitors can freely explore, even dance and move to the music. Regardless of where you're standing, you'll experience being at the core of artistic expression.
He also hinted at a third Light series in South Korea in the future, this time featuring Korean artists for the first time. The Theater of Light exhibition will run until March 3rd, 2024. 신새벽, Arirang News.
Unstable air will keep producing showers for the remainder of the night. Inland regions, including the Seoul metropolitan area, will see scattered outbreaks of rainfall of 5 to 40 millimeters. Showers will subside overnight, and after the rain clouds move away from the peninsula, a ridge of high-pressure system will filter in. Starting tomorrow daytime, plumes of hot air will take over across the nation, bringing baking hot temperatures. As you can see, readings will keep rising from this point on. For this weekend, extreme heat wave will bring highs above the 30-degree mark for most regions, along with strong UV radiation. For Chuncheon, conditions will be especially hot, with maximum temperatures reaching 34 degrees Celsius on Sunday. Extreme heat can lead to dehydration and fatigue, so drink plenty of water and avoid outdoor activities. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daegu will be starting off at 19 degrees. Clear skies will dominate for the daytime. Seoul will get up to 29 degrees, Daejeon 31, Gwangju and Gyeongju will be reaching 32 degrees. Until this weekend, hot spells and sunny skies will be persistent. For next week, Jeju Island will see frequent showers. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is News Center for tonight. Thanks for watching. A panel session coming up.